So here we are doing the Dark Horse, Ford's Mustang Dark Horse. This is their latest edition of the pony car. Lots of horsepower, lots of gurgles, all the things that Mustang enthusiasts really like. All right, so talk to me about what do we got here?
Okay, so what we're going to drive today is a 2024 Mustang Dark Horse. This is the base package. Just for reference, next to us here we have a handling package. So a few differences. Same engine, same powertrain. This is really just a handling package.
So handling, does it have a different suspension to it?
Yeah, different suspension tuning, slightly lower ride height.
So I noticed the tires are out a little bit more on this one than they are on
you'll notice this is a 305, 315 split set. You notice we have this for tire coverage because of the wider tire. Right. And just note, we've still got snows on this because it came from Michigan. Right. So that's not the production tire.
You're still snowing out there?
It's still snowing sometimes.
Okay, and then this one, the Dark Horse has...
It's a 255, 275 split pack. And again, these are not the final production tire surrogate, just we're coming out of winter, so we're moving things around.
Okay, and the logo that we have here.
Yep, so this is all new, obviously new brand, new logo, so kind of wicked. You'll see that sprinkled throughout the car, and that's obviously common between both.
Okay, and then Dark Horse.
Yep.
Written on that one, on this one too, but you don't see it as much on there because it doesn't stand out.
And what both have in common, they both share the same 500 horsepower engine, same Tremec transmission. Both cars, obviously the 10R is available as well.
So is it made on the same assembly line?
Yep, absolutely.
Are they pulled off and done something special with them?
This does have, I guess just when they're going through the plant, we do a surrogate tire thing because these tires, the wheels are so wide, and this goes off to get a couple of special things, but nothing too extreme. It's more just to help us process them through the plant.
Cool, cool.
And then you can also see a difference between the handling pack and the base one is the rear wing is different.
Okay.
If you notice this, and then on this one, there's a gurney flap that you can install. The customer can choose to put it on or not. We recommend it if you're taking the car to the track. It gives you a little more downforce.
Okay. This brings up a question for you. Ford really seems to be working hard on doing their own, supplying parts and aftermarket stuff. Solely, how are they doing with aftermarket people like, what is it, the guys out of Philadelphia, out of Paola, I can't remember their American Mustang or whatever they're
I mean, so Mustangs have been around for 60 years, and we've always had, we've always offered stuff from the factory or from our own internal, and we've always had relationships with folks outside, and there's even folks outside we don't have relationships that make things work. I mean, Mustangs have always been a canvas for people who modify, and there's all sorts of places they can get.
Well, I'm old enough to remember the first Mustangs, but it was, it's certainly
and that's what's cool about a Mustang, right? Everybody has that story, right? Going back almost 60 years now. So.
And then we also have the Ford Performance Parts that works with the engineering team to develop those to enhance your Mustang and personalize.
Well, and that was what I was leading to in my earlier conversation, was the Ford Performance Parts folks that though I'm sure that you can have many part numbers out there to do that, because I see that a lot with your new Bronco, is that you really are trying to be the ones that that provide parts to it, because those off-road guys, they want to as the Mustang guys, they want to have a weekend project and add something to it.
Yeah, it's still one of the most customized vehicles on the planet. If you think of the old SEMA, the SEMA organization that started basically in the 60s. A lot of the crews will take the Mustangs and then personalize it to their taste, so that customers can say, "Oh, hey, look what I can do to my car." Yeah. So it's not only the Ford stuff, but then the aftermarket is. Yeah.
Well, the aftermarket's people. That's what I say. After Christmas, everybody kind of goes, "Okay, now what do I do during the winter?" Oh, I go and pull out the catalogs and choose my projects for the spring. So when will the Dark Horse be available for consumer deliveries, or is it already out there?
They're coming out this summer.
So is there already pre-orders? Are they going to be numbered like the Bullet? You used to have bullet numbers, because I took...
So there is what we call a chassis number.
Yep, you'll see it when we go for a ride.
Because I didn't know that. I took it to that American Muscle event in Pennsylvania, and I took, I think it was Prototype 2.
Yeah.
And everybody said, well, they all, you've got a Bullet. It's got a number on it. And I was like, it does? And they went, it's Prototype 2. How did you get that? I don't know, Ford just dropped it off to me last week, so, kind of stuff.
Yeah, so and it's not sequenced to the VIN, it's sequenced to what we call the chassis number, which is the number that it's going down the assembly line.
Okay.
And that's how it identifies the chassis number and the order bank opened March 27th.
All right.
So that there are customer orders now in the system.
And then how maybe you can't talk about this, but how's Ford dealing with dealers who are trying to do markups? Is there a markup?
So
on
I
that?
mean, they're independent businessmen and women who put their own personal capital at risk. The MSRP, the S stands for suggested.
Okay.
Right. Manufacturer's suggested retail price. So we encourage our dealers to treat their consumers, in the best way possible. We work with our dealers to try to get them to ensure, and most of them do. Like most of them are really good men and women out there. But it is still something that is handled at the dealer level. And
they've still got to pay. They've still got to pay that staff that salary. They got a lot of mouths to feed in a dealership. And nobody realizes how important that tech behind that you never see is being trained, and all the tools that they have with them. And and that doesn't come for free.
It's that's why we do say MSRP, and that's what we encourage our dealers to sell at. And we continue to work with them to treat their customers as best as possible.
Cool. All right, so tell me more about about the vehicle. So the difference.
This is Tim's baby.
Yeah, one of them.
So Tim? So what is it that you? How's your relationship to this? Did they just hand you the keys and they learn to drive it one day, or did they?
Sure, sign me up.
Yeah.
So this go around, I've been working on the Mustang for about a little over 2 years now.
Okay.
I have done stints in the past. I was at.
You've been with me longer than that.
Yeah, I was at SVT, which then became Ford Performance, for about 13 years. So I was the first Mustang.
Well, I saw there was some gray in your beard, so I thought maybe this guy might have put a few of those.
Not as gray as him, but
but that's why he doesn't have a beard.
Yeah,
because it's like he'd be old. He'd be old man Ford by now.
I'm gonna drop a decade. This will come off this weekend as part of my Easter ritual. So the first Mustang I worked on was the 07 GT500.
Okay, and what did you do on that?
And so on that, I was what we call a chassis systems guy. I since moved into a role, it's called vehicle integration.
Okay.
And so my job is sort of make sure that the whole car turns out the way we need it to turn out to make our customers really happy. Okay. So it's making sure all the systems play nice together, making sure the attribute balances, we trade off this against that in a way that's going to make people happy.
And what's your training?
Mechanical engineering.
Okay.
And I have a master's in vehicle dynamics and chassis architecture.
Where'd you go to school?
University of Rochester, New York for undergrad, and then I went to, again, I'm always at places when the names are transitioning. I went to GMI for grad school. Okay. First year was GMI, second year was Kettering. So,
so in high school, were you like, a shop kid, or where did this all come for you?
So I mean, I was a car guy. I mean, that's a family disease, I guess. Growing up, we always had fun sports cars around. I mean, I think I started driving snowmobiles when I was like 4, and always, did dirt bikes and go-karts and tractors, and my dad had a construction company, bulldozers, excavators, anything with engines and
So did you get this from your dad, from your grandfather, from your grandma? Because sometimes they get it from grandmothers too.
Yeah. Well, my grandmother was very proud. Even she lived with us for a long time, and she could drive stick, and she was very proud of that. And even when her body failed her, she'd look at me sometimes and she goes, I can still drive stick if my legs would let me, and she told me, when, I don't know, she took herself off the road when she was 90 something, and a couple years later she was like, I still miss driving. So well, my grandpa was the one who probably first put me on the riding mowers and the snowmobiles when they were babysitting me, when mom and dad weren't watching. He'd stick me on there, and that kind of, but my dad's the same way. So it's kind of a family. So
all right, well, tell me, let's look inside this baby and tell me, what is it that you actually worked on?
Well, that's just it. So vehicle integration is super fun because you get to work on everything, and the downside is everybody's problem is your problem.
Okay.
but it's great. So like I said, we make sure the whole thing just comes together in a package that everyone likes. So I mean, I guess a kind of old-fashioned example that maybe doesn't always hold water anymore, but is easy to understand is, if there's a trade-off between vehicle dynamics and NVH, we sort of arbitrate that, right, and help out. And then there's also all the stuff we do with making sure all the regulations are met, and making sure, just kind of boring functional requirements are met. But kind of the real meat of it is just making sure that the car that rolls out at the end of the day is all of one and meets the customer expectations.
So do you come up with something and go, oh, they screwed that up, and fix it?
They screwed that up. We don't let it get to the point where we screw it up. Because obviously, when we started this, it was it didn't exist. It's a blank sheet of paper. So we are very much involved in the initial target setting, making sure, okay, this has to do this, has to do this, has to do this, cascading those targets out to everybody who makes, you know, if I'm making a control arm, you start with just a control arm, but it's going to get put in a car, and it needs to deliver at the vehicle level the handling that the car's going to have. And so it starts with a component, right, and builds out from there. So we sort of start top, winnow it down. Hey, control arm guy, you need to do this. Hey, you know, transmission guy, you need to do this, so that when it all comes together, it's going to be a great car.
Cool. Well,
so it's fun. It's sometimes nebulous, but it's you get to touch everything.
Cool.
Right?
Let's have a look inside.
Yeah. Going to
find that key and.
Yeah. So we'll open her up. If you want to hop in so you can see the screens better. All right. So obviously, this is a big departure for this product. We'll go ahead and key it on so we get the. You can fire it up if you want.
Okay, well, it said touch.
But you can't drive it.
No, I don't want to drive it.
And I don't. Yeah. There you go. There you go. You can let the clutch out.
Okay.
Hold this hit okay. Okay, so obviously this is a departure for Mustang.
Because of
the
screens?
Yep. So I don't know if you recall the previous one. We did have a digital cluster available. It was not nearly as this expansive.
But isn't this what people want now?
Exactly. So you know, it's an interesting task when you're working with a car like a Mustang, right? We're going on 60 years. It's an icon.
Well, you still, you know,
there's certain expectations.
There's certain round dials there. But this is what people, you know, this is what a lot of people want now. But you know, this all here looks pretty base. I mean, it's kind of clean, kind of simple. There's not a lot going on. This, of course, is the most important part.
Yep. So
you know,
still offer manual transmission.
Well, and also the, you know, the little pool ball.
Yeah, so this is kind of a neat story. This is anodized titanium.
Okay.
You can only get the titanium shift knob on the Dark Horse, and all Dark Horse manuals have it. This part is actually 3D printed.
Oh, neat.
It's 3D printed titanium. It's not a solid ball. It's a lattice. And we'll have to, for a future event, get a cutaway of it. But one of the reasons we did that was to reduce the thermal mass of it. Because one thing with metal shift knobs, they get hot and cold. And this one still does.
Well, I'm sure it would get hot, you know, the heat coming up from...
You know, it doesn't, that's not so bad. It's the, you know, when you park the car out in the sun and you come out after work or whatever.
After work? You mean after play?
After play, whatever. Come on, I have to keep the pretense up.
Yeah.
So that was sort of, and this is an example of, here was an opportunity, you know, a relatively low volume product, and we can do those experiments, right? It's like, hey, this 3D print.
Was that something that you worked on then, or not?
A little bit on the attribute side of it, but obviously we have a whole team of people who...
Okay, so the feel of it. So it's just got a very nice, kind of a little bit of a, not a sticky feel, but you know, you hold, when you hold on to it, you know, it holds you back a little bit.
Yeah, it falls to the hand nice. It's, you know, a good size.
It doesn't, you don't, I'd look at it and I think you'd slide off, but it doesn't.
No.
It does that, so. And of course it's the 6-speed, which is...
The Dark Horses all have the Tremec transmission, so, like you said, we kept critical buttons for things that people want to get to quick. Probably the most fun one on all the Mustangs have this is our, you know, we call it our pony button.
Okay, and pony button does what?
And it takes you to this screen. So this is your My Mustang screen. So pretty fun. We're using the Unreal 3D engine, which is a video game engine for the graphics. But this is where you can access, you know, all the fun Mustang stuff that makes a Mustang a Mustang. So,
so any Easter eggs in here?
Well, if I told you, it wouldn't be much of an Easter egg.
Well, yeah, but I want an Easter. I want at least one Easter egg out of the conversation.
So we, so here's all of our track apps, and this is stuff, if you know, Mustang customers will be familiar with. We have these on the current outgoing product, but we've brought it all into here, and the interface is a lot more useful. So acceleration, brake performance, lap timer.
Okay.
Yep. So you can do those events.
And things seem to be pretty quick, because this is one of the things a lot of people complain about.
Yes.
With these screens is that they lag a little bit.
Yep. And that's something in my role that, you know, I complain about. That's, you know, when we're doing the development, we're like, guys, it needs to be faster. It needs to be faster. So that's one of the things we've hammered on all along. All the Dark Horses and the performance packs get the drift brake.
And what is drift brake?
Fun.
What is drift brake?
So this, although it looks like a traditional park brake handle, it is actually an electronic park brake.
Okay.
So when drift when drift brake is not on, this just behaves as a normal park brake. When it's, and it actually locks all 4 wheels now. When it's on, it lets you, and I don't know if you're familiar with the sport of drifting at all, but, or if you were when you were a kid, if you did it yourself in a snowy parking lot anywhere or whatever.
I lived out in the country. I learned to drive a 66 Jeep Wagoneer with 3 on the tree in the field.
There you go. That's mine was an 83 Ford Ranger manual in the field. So yeah, field driving is a good way to learn. So, but it lets you do what I'll say we used to be able to do in the old days, and but it works a lot better because it's actually using the anti-lock brake pump to pressurize
so
the rear
this is
lines.
Basically an electric switch.
Exactly. So
even though it feels.
Yeah. Yep.
Did it make a noise?
It did because you're. It thinks you're wanting to put the brake on because you're pulling it.
Cool.
And to deactivate it, you push down.
Well, I want to see what it'll do with that.
Yeah.
Cool. And I love that little.
Yeah, it's not that. It's not. But
that to me is a Mustang noise in the recent Mustangs that I've driven.
Yep.
So.
And it worked. It drew your attention. You're like, hey, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
But so this lets you do that drifting maneuver. You can pull it. It'll lock up the back. It'll kick the end out. Obviously, track use only. Closed course.
But you have to push that.
You have to turn it on. Yep.
Okay.
And then I don't know if you noticed when you did that, it put it into track mode. So you notice your cluster change. That's our track mode motif.
Okay.
That we use for. We have selectable drive modes over here.
Okay.
So we use that motif for track and drag.
Okay.
And then obviously we have the other ones, which I can show you here in a second. So if we go back one, obviously. There's a bunch of different auxiliary gauges you can have. You can do it the 3-gauge view, you can do a 5-gauge view, and then you can pick which gauges you want and where you want them to be, right? So, just a nice way to customize it. The accelerometer's fun. You can look at it. Then we have custom mode. So we have our normal selectable drive modes, and then we have a mode that is called custom. If you want to push that mode button up and down, you can just watch it go through the carousel. So we have track, sport, there's our normal, and then custom's one of the modes. And where you actually use this screen to set what custom will be. And you can build up to, I think it's 6 of them, different ones, and you just go through and you just change all the attributes, and you just pick what you want, right? So there's your damper setting for this particular one. We lock it out.
So you can have a custom mode for going to work, a custom mode for the track, custom mode for going to church on Sunday. Yep.
Exhaust, do you want normal? Do you want track? Do you want sport? And it just highlights what's changed. So that just gives you a little more tunability, right? Because like we were talking about outside, one thing with Mustangs, it is one of the most customized car. You like to make it your own. We still have My Color, which again, carry over from the current product, but the experience is a lot more deep now. I don't know if you notice here, I got the white. I kind of set this up before with the blue accent, but if you want, if I say reset,
so it changes.
Yeah, there's the factory.
It changes all the color. Okay.
So there's a primary and secondary. Yeah.
Oh, do I have to slide it over? There it is.
So I'll give it a second. So there you just changed, the bar, and then if you want to change the dial, it would be the bottom pull here.
Okay. Cool.
So again, everybody has their preferences, right, on color. So we give that option to you. You won't be able to see it, but you can also, we have the ambient light. It's in the daytime, it doesn't show up so great. And then cluster themes. So you saw some of the themes when you were going through the drive modes. If you have one that you love, like I just love how track mode looks, but I'm not gonna drive around track mode all the time, you can pick track. And then
customize it.
Even though you're in normal mode, you can be looking at the track screen. And then probably, we do have a calm, which obviously isn't one of the drive modes, but if you're looking for a little less input after a long day or whatever, this is probably the most fun.
We had an 89 Fox body.
So if you're feeling a little nostalgic or an old school person, you can pick up the Fox body cluster. So
we had an 89 Fox body that with a 6 and a 5-speed transmission.
There you go.
But it was very front heavy. But
they were. So that's sort of the well, let me go back to the and then one other thing is that you can access here directly is our exhaust mode. So this does have active exhaust. We're in sport mode right now.
So inside, now that is that Am I hearing that digitally, or is that actually from the exhaust system?
There's a valve in the back. It's from the exhaust.
So it is not. So it's not just a digital sound that I'm getting off the speakers in here.
Full disclosure, there is a little bit of we do some overlaying just because it makes for a more full experience. It's kind of a funny thing. Cars have gotten so good for NVH. Like sometimes we keep out good noises, so then we have to like find ways to bring them back in, but predominantly it's the valve on this. With the quiet mode, you can also there's a setting you can go in and you can set it so like if it's say between 6 and 8 a.m. it always starts up in quiet mode. So if you're trying to get out of the neighborhood without making people grumpy or wake the baby, you can do that. And then obviously there's a sport and there's the track, which is track only. Now
we talked about the numbers on it is. So this is pre-production 004.
Yeah. Sweet. All right. The Dark Horses all do have Magnaride dampers standard. So when this Shelby thing happened, Wells Cobra thing happened, they So I started the original Raptor program, which was super cool because that was something we had never done before, and we learned a lot.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Real DC Car Guy as we talk to Tim Smith, the engineer with Ford Motor Company's Performance Division, about the Dark Horse Mustang. Until next time.